What up, nation? Welcome to another edition, the final edition of the WiseTake NFL WiseTake NFL DFS podcast, week 17. That's right, the last week of the regular season. And I am filling in for Matt Schreiber, aka Schreibeezy, and I am joined by a good buddy of mine, a true OG of the nation, a true OG. There from day one. They're from day zero doing podcasts before we were the WiseTake Nation. Mr. Patio Joe. You can find him on Twitter at Patio Joe Ref. Patio Joe, how was your holidays? What's goody? Two shoes.
Everything was good. Holidays were good. Yeah, back in the day, we were just the WiseTake boutique. Now we're the WiseTake.
The WiseTake corner.
So, yeah. So, but yeah, now, Christmas was good. The kids were good. A lot of family, a lot of eating, and talking a little week 17. Wound up winning one of my leagues, fantasy, and finishing third in another. And then my main league, I didn't do very well. But of the three leagues, I won one of them and finished third in another. So I was pretty good.
Nice.
Wound up pocketing some cash. And cash games, my cash game lineup for WiseTake is 10-6 this year. So that's pretty good. I kept the tally. So I'm above 500. I'm happy on my cash game. That was my goal this year, was just really just get into cash games and hit it with that. And so going 10-6, even if you go 10-7, it'd be fine, or 11-7 would be great, or 11-6 would be great too. So yeah, good year.
You've had a really good year, Joe. In a year that's been wild. Like, it's been a wacky year a little bit. There's been some. I'm not going to say it was a tough slate, because, I mean, realistically, with the NFL, with all the variants and how big the slates are, and the fact that they're only once a week, there is, it's not an easy sport, man. It's a hard sport. It's tough. And you don't just get another crack tomorrow like in baseball and basketball. You got to wait. They get 17 regular season weeks to make it happen.
But yeah, and then, with me being, kind of on our own here in WiseTake, we don't subscribe to all those lineup trains that some of the other companies do, and you all see like 20 of the same lineup in cash games. So we're kind of on our own, and I pride myself. When I'm beating those trains, I'm above them, and it's like you cash easily that way, and it's frustrating sometimes because if you're not on the right chalk, it could really screw you if your plays doesn't hit. But it's also very, very rewarding when you know that you have a unique lineup in a cash setting that smashes.
Oh yeah, man, absolutely. It's definitely, with this day and age where I know a lot of controversial topics. A lot of people obviously end up with the same optimal lineup, so to speak, in cash, and I can understand that if you're not in those circles, or if you don't see things the way those people do, it could certainly be frustrating to lose to like by 1 point, but had that 1 point really cost you like 50 slots, like in a 100-man field, 50-50 or double up, whatever. But needless to say, it's been a wild season. Week 17 is always crazy. You've got teams that are motivated, teams that are not. We already know some situations. For example, the what's it called? The Ravens. We already know pretty much nobody's playing. So it's an interesting situation. We're gonna have a lot of value to pick from, I would imagine, come Sunday. Of course, the trick is to get the value right, and of course, mix them and match them up with players who are actually motivated to win or perform, whether it's records, whether it's playoff seeding, whether it's anything, playoff hopes. So before we go into the position by position, Joe, we're gonna go ahead and you're just gonna kind of run through some of these games and talk to us about some of the teams that are playing for some of the teams that ain't. And then we'll just dive in position by position like we always do. NFL Wise stream will be tomorrow night with Paulie. And right now we have Paulie and Cam. So we'll see what the schedule looks like tomorrow night. In the meantime, Joey, talk to me, man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so obviously, guys, doing a little bit more research this weekend for finding like player props and stuff, what a certain player has to go for on maybe some of these teams where I might be like, there's nothing to play for on this team, don't play them. But if you do a little research and maybe you find a guy that might be 100 yards from 1,000 or something like that, that might be, they're going to feature him even if there might be that. So don't necessarily shy away from them, but I will be going through these games and be like, this is who I'm crossing off. This is who are playing for something. So, Obviously, it could change, but I'm just going to start off, New Orleans and Carolina. I'm seeing in the Carolina side, you're just going to want C-Mac. Nobody else I'm really worried about. New Orleans has something to play for with seeding and stuff, so they're definitely playable. I don't think Michael Thomas is going to be playing, so X him out or just kind of cross him out because he got the record last week. Cincinnati, Cleveland, cross them off. I don't really care about them. Green Bay, Detroit. Green Bay. You could play. They need seedings. If they win, they get the number 2 seed. Washington, Dallas. Play Dallas. Dallas can be obviously another. They can win the East with a win and a Eagles loss. Indy, Jacksonville. Cross them out. They're not playing. Chargers, Chiefs. I think you could play the Chiefs because they can get a first-round bye with a win and a Patriots loss, so I could see it for maybe a half. But in cash games, I would be off of this game. Chicago, Minnesota, don't play it. None of them are playing. Minnesota's locked into their seeding. Chicago is doing nothing. Miami, New England. New England, the same thing. New England is more of like, I feel like I would cross this game out. They're going to win. Miami, it seems like it could be attempting to play the other side, but I'm just going to stay away from it and not play any of it. Atlanta, Tampa Bay, this could be a sneaky shootout game. Neither of these teams have anything to play for, but I could see it being a very, very, very good GPP game to go to because kind of like the route tree and who's going to get what are very easy to identify, at least on both sides because of injuries. The Jets and Buffalo, I'd cross them out. Buffalo's not going to be playing anybody. They don't really have anything to play for. Pittsburgh, Baltimore. Baltimore, you're not going to need anything, but Pittsburgh needs to win and some help to get in the playoffs. Same thing with Tennessee, Houston. Houston doesn't really have much to play for, but Tennessee has a chance to get in, so thus they'll be playing hard. Oakland, Denver, same thing. Oakland will be playing to get in the playoffs with a little bit of help. I don't mind playing a little bit of Denver, playing for like a little bit of spoiler there. It is a division game. Rams and Cardinals, nothing really to play for, but I do like one player in the Rams-Cardinals game. And then probably I think it's going to be the highest played game of the week is Philly and the Giants. In my opinion, I think Philly is on upset alert. Philly needs the win coming off of a big victory. They're in New York. There's nothing more than the Giants would love to do than to upset the Eagles and to knock them out of the playoffs. The Giants are completely healthy. Their offense is firing on all cylinders, and I could just see it's the right time. I think the Eagles are on upset alert, in my opinion. That's pretty much breaking it down for you right there, CK.
I'm with it, Joe. I'm with it. A lot of useful information. Don't forget to check us out at WiseTake.com for more NFL DFS content. Patio Joe writing the FanDuel breakdown with his scores for cash and tournaments. Paulie D on the DraftKings. I do a core plays article. We have all kinds of content tomorrow. We'll have a NFL Wide Stream, another show with a couple of the guys giving analysis over at WiseTake.com. All right, Joey, with that said, man, let's go ahead and get into the positions. We'll start off with quarterback. Talk to me about some of the quarterbacks that stand out to you the most here.
Yeah, it's kind of hard. Quarterback this week is kind of tough. Thinking what I was talking about, you're not going to play Lamar. Mahomes, I could see you playing, but I just feel like the games with them and the Chargers have been kind of close lately and low scoring, and I just don't think they really have much to play for. So Breeze, I don't mind, but Carolina's pass defense isn't too bad, and they're on the road, so playing Breeze on the road isn't very good. I don't mind Rodgers. I'd probably Winston is in GPPs. You don't play him in cash. It's like in the DFS Bible now. You just don't play Winston in cash. But I don't mind Carson Wentz 7,700 on the road against the Eagles, and I also don't mind Danny Dimes at home against the Eagles. I think that he's in a good spot. Quarterback is kind of weird this week, to be honest with you. Because there's not a lot that have like a lot to play for. You don't know how long they're going to play and stuff. So it's kind of like I feel like maybe pay down and just try and get a decent floor somewhere. Maybe Fitz too. I could see Fitz with just garbage time. If you look at his numbers, the last 4 or 5 weeks, he is 250 or more and 2 touchdowns, pretty much an average. So that's almost 20 points. in a fantasy setting, and at his price, he'll get you 2.5x. I know it's against the Patriots, so it's tough, and it's in New England, so check the weather. But he's in a decent spot, and I think this might be the week just to pay down at QB. On FanDuel, do not play Robert Griffin. Do not play Robert Griffin on FanDuel. He's 7K. Do not play Robert Griffin. All right, that's all I got for quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, a couple of the guys that stood out were obviously one guys who were motivated. Carson Wentz certainly stood out, right? The price on DraftKings, he's 6,100, which really isn't bad. He's throwing the ball 40-something times a game. The Eagles' defense has looked suspect. We see Miami was able to just torch them. The Giants' offense seems to be clicking a little bit. Saquon's been more involved. Danny Jones looking like Danny Jones. And there's no doubt in my mind that the Eagles would love to play spoiler here. Like I'm sorry, that the Giants would love to play spoiler. I know they don't have anything to play for themselves, but they have a chance to legitimately knock the Eagles out of the playoffs, which, not that, they want the Cowboys to get in, but if they have a chance to influence a team, they're going to take that chance. So I like that. I think the Giants are going to be pushing Wentz in that game, and the volume in which he's throwing, it just seems like he's likely to throw for over 300 yards. You get some touchdown variants mixed up in there, and he has a huge day. And then there's Ryan Tannehill. I know this is not a volume play, and I know Derrick Henry's expected to be back, but this game, like you said, they're playing for something. Houston's not going to just roll over. But with that said, their defense, their secondaries looked awful. So, just off out the gate, those are two quarterbacks that are playing for something. And I think the prices are reasonable enough. Obviously, Wentz a lot more attractive. And then as far as one quarterback that's interesting to me is Jared Goff also. 6,200 against Arizona. We know that's a nut spot. We know Goff has played better at home over the course of his career. So it's just something interesting. I know that, they haven't had the season that they were hoping for, but something to take a look at. It's Arizona.
I think also health-wise, speaking, check his health-wise, but I think Dak is in a good spot at home.
Yes.
Must win, I think, because I think everybody's assuming that Dallas is going to take care of business at home against the Skins, and they're going to put up points. Dak has had at least 2 touchdowns almost on every home start this year, and his floor at home is pretty damn good. So I don't mind him, especially if his health is okay, but his shoulder looked a little suspect last week, so be sure to check that.
Agreed, and I think that's a really good mother-sucking point. Let's go over to running backs, Joey. So the first guy I'm going to ask you about, I'll open it up and I'll just ask your thoughts on running back in general, but first we got to talk about Christian McCaffrey, right? Because we know the Panthers ain't playing for shit. We know their season went down the tubes. Ron Rivera's fired, all that good stuff. However, we also know that the organization has come out and said that they care about the record. They'd like to see McCaffrey make history, and they said they were, in quotes, literally going to try to get McCaffrey the ball any way that they possibly can. I think on both sites this is big, but on DraftKings especially, right? Because if he ends up getting fucking 90 or say 110 receptions, he could have 20 receptions, 20 actual catches with that yardage. So on DraftKings, where you get full PPR, definitely heightens my interest. We know there's going to be a lot of value lying around. Talk to me about your thoughts on McCaffrey from a FanDuel perspective and just an overall fantasy perspective this week. And, of course, then continue with the rest of the running backs you're looking at.
You see, I think I want to know how far he is away from the record because he could maybe get it and then they pull him. That's the thing. You know what I mean? Maybe they get to 10.5 and then they pull him. And I don't know if that's enough. At 11K on FanDuel at a half PPR site, I'm worried a little bit. I think Barkley in a GPP setting is an amazing position that nobody's going to go to, I don't think. Because the Eagles D is pretty good against the run. But Barkley, man, he has shown the last 2 weeks that if he would have done this all year, he would be right where C-Mac is right now. I mean, he absolutely crushed the last few weeks. Derrick Henry, I just don't know about his health, but he's off the injury report, so I don't mind. The guys that I'm looking at, the 3 guys I'm looking at, Ezekiel Elliott, Aaron Jones, and Alvin Kamara. Zeke, obviously, against the Skins, who they've just been able to run on them, and I just think that last week they just stopped giving Zeke the ball completely, and I just feel like they're gonna give him the ball and have him win the game and hopefully the division for the Cowboys. Aaron Jones going up against Detroit. We all know Detroit can't stop anybody. And Aaron Jones, I think he's more of a GPP setting just because you know that he's going to share time with Jamal Williams a little bit. And he has had those floors that are like nothing. So it kind of scares me a little bit. But then Kamara against Carolina, we saw Kamara really heated up. And maybe he's been holding it back. And now his ankle's finally healthy. And he has scored 2 touchdowns last week. He's going to catch a lot of balls out of the backfield, and we've just seen literally Carolina has been the sluttiest defense against run the last like 6 weeks. So just Kamara is probably the guys up top. Down below, Miles Sanders has had a great year and is in play also. You're going to want to look for guys that are in good spots that maybe can get 1,000 yards. I know Marlon Mack is close to 1,000 yards if he didn't get it last week. Maybe you look at somebody like Austin Eckler in the Chargers-Chiefs games just as a dart throw because the Chargers might be behind. Check to see about the health or Gus Edwards because he's probably going to be running the ball predominantly in Baltimore, but you can also throw a GPP at Justice Hill. Don't forget about Phillip Lindsay in the Raiders-Denver game. I think he's in a decent spot. And then probably you might want to go again with DeAndre Washington if Jacobs isn't going to be playing. And that's about it. Obviously, there's maybe some guys that might pop up in the with the Pittsburgh running situation if you want to go there. But I just don't know how it's going to, divide up the last week of the season.
Yeah, man, that's what's the interesting thing about McCaffrey. On the one hand, he's going to be chalky. On the other hand, you mentioned a couple other really good running backs who are good in good situations that may take away from his ownership more than it should, at least on DraftKings, because you mentioned Zeke. They finally went back to giving him the ball, and they had success. Last week, you mentioned they kind of got away from him, even though he's got a history of completely destroying Zeke. The Cowboys completely boggle my mind. Like, you give Zeke the money, knowing that your new offensive coordinator is a former quarterback and likes to throw, and is going to throw a ton any chance he gets. And then, so you got this guy in here already. Then you decide to give Zeke the money. And now you just decide you're just going to treat Zeke like he's just another running back. And I think, it's pretty crazy. But when they have decided to lean on Zeke, it's been effective. And this is a game they really can't afford to fuck around. Like, they need help. They need to win, and they need the Giants to upset the Eagles. So I expect them to feature Zeke pretty heavily. They're playing for something. They're motivated. I'm with you on that. And I wonder how much ownership him and Kamara, if any, will take away from Christian McCaffrey. Either those guys are going to go crazy low owned, or they'll be owned somewhat, and McCaffrey will be chalk still, but maybe not as high of chalk as he should be for the spot and position that he is in. You mentioned Kamara, another example, right? Like, the workload, that's not really Kamara's deal. It's not volume, but efficiency is, and he's needed that to come his way, and it has. It's like, it hit him hard. Touchdown regression last week hit him hard in a positive way. And he's playing. This is a nut matchup, man. I mean, the Panthers have just been the literal nut worst against the run. I wish McCaffrey can play against his own defense. That would be phenomenal to watch. But unfortunately, it happens to be his team. So it is what it is. There's a lot of other guys we'll discuss as we get closer. Like you said, that's the conversation. McCaffrey's the big decision for me that I have to make come Sunday. And like you said, you touched on a lot of the potential value that could be opened up. So we'll have to stay tuned to see which way the news falls. Joey, take us over to receiver.
Yeah. One last thing about Dallas. You can kind of feel like, if you're a Dallas fan, do you want them to not make the playoffs this year because you want Garrett gone? But I can also see this happening. Dallas sneaks into the playoffs, and they're going to host the Vikings the next week. What if they beat the Vikings and then go on the road and win 2 and play in the NFC Championship game? And does that save Garrett's job? Do you really want that as a Cowboy fan? Right. Because that's how Dallas operates. They're like the drama of all dramas. Like, they should be out and then watch them just sneak in. They'll win a game because they got a home game in Dallas, and then they go on the road and happen to win a game on the road too. And then all of a sudden people are like, well, should Garrett keep his job?
Right.
I could just see it happening right now. Like, it's seriously, you could just see the narrative being written. But on the receiver, this is another spot where you're just going to have to find, the wide receiver cornerback matchups are going to be huge this week. I personally think a guy like Devontae Adams up top is where you got to look at. You don't know how long Julio Jones is going to be playing, or I would look at him also. It's weird. You're going down this list, Bashad Perryman at 7,600. We live in a world where that seems like a pretty damn good play because he's going to get 12 or 14 targets against a bad secondary. So Bashard Perryman, he's in play. Check to see Edelman's status because he's got an amazing matchup in the slot. So they might just roast him. Cortland Sutton, I like also. He's got an amazing matchup against the Raiders secondary. Keenan Allen's price has stayed down. I'm just not going to go to him. The Chiefs' defense has been really, really good as of late. If I were to play anybody on the Bengals, it would be Tyler Boyd. He's got a decent spot, 6,600. He's got a decent floor for cash. I don't mind that. But then you're just kind of waiting for something to open up, some sort of value. Maybe if McLaurin plays, I don't mind playing him, but maybe Steven Sims Jr., because there's got to be somebody on the other side that's going to be catching passes for the Skins. Golden Tate, I don't mind him. He'd probably be the one receiver I'd pick in a cash setting for FanDuel. Maybe Slayton for a GPP. But that's about it. Receiver is wide open because we just don't know who's going to get what. One value guy I'll throw out there right now is Greg Ward, 5,600. He's got a great matchup against DeAndre Baker, one of the first quarterbacks.
Man, he looks great, Greg Ward. I mean, talk about needing a fill-in. You lose Alshon Jeffrey, you lose your whole receiving core, basically, and he's filled in pretty nicely. And even when Ertz went down, I've seen some situations like that. With that said, I agree with you. Receiver is wide open, man. Just you could make a case for so many guys. I think Perriman certainly interesting with Winston. Because I didn't talk about this at quarterback much, but Winston, I know they said they're going to give him the tag, but I still think Winston is trying to prove something to his coach. I think Winston's hoping, because his what he's got to, I guess, what do you call it? His audition is starting this year, but it's going through next year too. They're giving him a tag. They're not re-signing him, so it's not like he's getting another 3 years or whatever, a guaranteed slot somewhere. So, with that said, I think him and Perriman are a fine pairing against a team like Atlanta. AJ Brown, I really like. I mean, what's not to like, right? It's just Houston's got one of the slowest secondaries in the league. AJ Brown has been electric in a terrible matchup last week. They managed to find a way to get him in the end zone by letting him run the ball in a situation they couldn't throw it. When they do throw it, he's the guy they want to throw it to. If they can't throw it to him, they're not throwing successfully. So if I am playing that quarterback, it's with AJ Brown, because if he didn't get AJ Brown the ball, he probably wasn't all that effective anyway. So just go down with the ship at that point. But yeah, I mean, we can sit here and go back and forth on these guys, but in reality, it is wide open, and it comes down to what your builds look like, what types of games you want, and what types of builds you're going for. The Stars and Scrubsy build, more balanced. There's options all around. But one thing for sure is, like Joe said, we want to be playing some of these guys that are maybe chasing some milestones, playing for something, and stay away from the ones that don't, because you don't know how long they're going to play. But like Joe had mentioned, so some of these cheaper guys certainly popping up on the radar. With that said, Joe, take us over to tight ends, man. What you see over there?
Tight end, for me, the guy that just pops off the page is Tyler Higbee. He's the one guy on the Rams I want this week. He's going for his 5th straight 100-yard game, and he's playing against the team playing for nothing, and they're the team that's given up the most touchdowns in the history of the NFL in one season to the tight end. So it's just everything lines up. If you're going to pay up for the tight end position, it's Tyler Higbee. Don't think anything more about it. Kelsey has a bad history against the Chargers. Mark Andrews is questionable and probably not even be playing the entire game. Jared Cook I could see, but no. It's Higbee all the way. Ertz is questionable. So if Ertz is out, Goddard is the only other guy that I would consider instead of Higbee in cash or GPP. It's pretty much that's all I'm going to be playing, especially if Ertz is out. It'll be Higbee and Goddard. That's about it. Maybe if a value guy pops up somewhere, but I just don't see it. I don't think we need it, especially if you decide to not play C-Mac. If you don't play C-Mac, then it's Higbee all the way, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I definitely think that makes sense. Tight end is kind of a tricky one, right? A little bit. So that kind of what makes you want to like secure and get Higbee, right? Just go. Why not? Nuts spot for Higbee. Arizona, the worst team in the league against tight ends. Higbee has been a big part of this offense and has helped Goff out tremendously in terms of getting out of jams and salvaging certain games. So I'm with you. I think if you could find a way to get him in, and depending on how much value opens up or how much value you're actually willing to play, you may be able to find ways to get them both in, at least on DraftKings, where he's 5'5". But I'm with you. You know, the typical guys, O.J. Howard, Cameron Brate, that's a situation. I think I prefer Howard. Brate's an option if you want to punt. You mentioned Dallas Goedert, who I think has earned himself a pretty, without. If I was in this situation with the receivers they have, I would do double tight ends as much as I could because I think Goddard is better than most of the receivers that they have playing right now. And I think they're starting to see that. Every time Ertz gets down, Goddard steps up, and he's just having a phenomenal year. So I'm with you. I'm pretty much with you on all that, man. Again, going to crack down to see what we end up with later, but, I want to play guys like Jack Doyle, and these guys are just not playing for anything. So there is some concern with players like him who have dealt with injury all season. Defenses, and then we'll get on to the top three best bets of the week. So talk to me about some defenses, Joe.
Defenses this week, I think there's a lot of defenses you could just like throw a dart in and feel like, well, they'll just take over. We have some sort of backups playing here or there. So something might happen. I'm pretty much going to try and just stay to home teams. So to me, the two home teams that stand out, Chiefs and the Rams. Chiefs defense the last few weeks have just been probably one of the best defenses in the league. Pretty solid last 5 weeks, 10, 11, 8, 22, and 11. That's just from FanDuel pricing. So at 4,300, that's almost average of over 3x. So to me, I feel like as a Charger fan, I've watched them the last 2 weeks and they've given up. They're not playing for anything. They looked so bad against the Vikings and just laid down against the Raiders in a stadium where it was completely Raider fans, and now they're going to go to the cold in KC, and KC needs something. Phillip Rivers maybe playing in his last game as a Charger. I mean, I could see pick six written all over it this weekend. I feel like the Chiefs are my number one defense, with the Rams going up against maybe Brett Hundley, not Kyler Murray, because he is questionable. So you have a home team, 3,800. They're not really playing for anything, but yet Brett Hundley, all I can say about Brett Hundley is he went to UCLA, so it's a narrative of playing in the Coliseum again, but that's about it. So right now, it's the Chiefs for me. Like, they just look so good. Maybe it's me just saying the Chargers are terrible, but watching them the last 2 weeks, I just don't feel like they can keep up. And the Chiefs, right now, the Chiefs are my pick to go to the Super Bowl.
I'm with it, Joe. I agree. The motivation's a big issue. Playing home teams take into account if we get any more young quarterbacks and not starting. One sort of I don't want to say off the wall, but one defense I'm kind of into is the Jets. They've been good to me all year for the most part, man. Like, because they managed to make plays, they managed to get turnovers. They'll get a fumble recovery in the end zone or something. That even though they give up a few points, they put points on the board. Not to mention the Jets defense has been very, very good this year. And just from some of the talk around locally, I know the Jets are looking forward to this game. This is the game that they played week 1 that kind of set them off on the wrong tone. Sam Darnold got mono the following week. They ended up losing to Buffalo, who came from behind. They were winning the whole game. But they are on the road. The game really isn't for anything. So, again, nothing to go crazy and write home about. Just a little something I wanted to mention. Other than that, I agree with everything you said, man. When we want to stick as much to the teams that have something to play for, and more importantly, teams that have the right matchups. And I get the feeling it's gonna be a wild week, because you could have a situation like, say, a team like the Lions, just for shits and giggles, could end up like, if there's ever a situation for any reason that they decide to, get a little wild, get a little weird, you could see one of those teams just like they get an opportunity against players that aren't as good. You didn't expect to get it. You can't really predict it. And then, things get crazy. So I'll be getting weird at defense this week. I'll be getting weird everywhere. I think you have to. I'll have a few guys that I'm going a ton, like McCaffrey, I'll play a shit ton, and then I'm going to get weird around him. I think that's my strategy. But that's going to do it for this week's edition of the First Look Podcast. The Wise stream will be tomorrow. Like I said, as of right now, I think we've got Cam and Paulie scheduled for tomorrow night. We'll see what ends up happening. But hit the like button, guys. Subscribe to the channel. We do all kinds of DFS content on the channel. Make sure you hit the notifications bell as well, so you're notified whenever we do go live. If you're listening to this on Podbean or iTunes, give us some likes, give us some 5-star reviews. Much appreciated. This was a fun season. Joey, you held it down for the nation. Did really well in the NFL, man. You've been holding it down with the articles every week and guiding the nation, the best you can. So, shout out to you, Joey. It's been a phenomenal season, and we're looking forward to the playoffs, man.
Yeah, we'll have fun in the playoffs. We'll have a little playoff content too. Those are some fun slates the first 2 weeks.
Oh yeah, you have some fun. With that said, let's get into the top three against the spread picks. So let me pull up this thing right here, Joey. Talk to me. You want to like trade one for one, and like just go?
Yeah.
Okay. So who's your first one?
Pittsburgh, Baltimore under.
Ooh, dropped an under on me. I like that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with the Tampa Bay Bucks -1 at home. I think Jameis goes out there and tries to do some dirties. I just love Bruce Arians, man. I'm such a mark for that coach, man.
All right, and I'm gonna take the let's see here. I'm gonna take also the under in the Miami New England game.
Under Miami, New England. Ooh, you're on the totals today, Joey Joe. I like it, man. Getting different. Thinking outside the box. I like that.
Well, week 17, I was reading some. Week 17, there's like all the unders. Like traditionally, just the unders always hit. So that's what I'm like kind of hitting at.
That does make sense. I think I'll go with the Tennessee Titans. They, I think, will be playing with more motivation. And I'll give them a shot. -3.5. I'd love to buy it to 3. If I was really gonna bet this, I'd probably try to buy it to 3, depending on if it wasn't too crazy of a price. But 3.5 it is. What do you got?
I mean, that's why like the Baltimore Pittsburgh. Like, if it's at 37.5, that's why I like the under. If it's at 37, I don't like it because I see 2017.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, so that's what I think. But my last pick, I'm taking the points. The Giants upsetting the Eagles in New York. I'm taking the points.
I knew it was coming. I was thinking in my head, I'm like, I'm surprised Joey didn't lead off with the Giants thing. I was like, and then the second one, I was like, oh, here it comes. It's coming. And then it still didn't happen. And I was like, oh.
Taking the points. The Giants.
There you go.
Winning outright.
Ooh, the outright upset. I like it, man. I like it. Oof.
You know what I would love to? You know what would be even the best call?
What's that?
Fourth quarter comeback by Eli.
Fourth quarter comeback.
With just
the improbable.
Twitter would shut down. Like literally, Eli gets carried off the field. Yeah. The Meadowlands by eliminating the Eagles.
Oh my god!
It would be the greatest thing ever.
It honestly would be. Obviously, I'm a Jet fan. Jet fans don't like Giant fans or the Giants, but that would be something I think even Jet fans would appreciate. For the sake of football.
I would laugh my ass off.
Oh, yeah. That would be glorious.
He, comes back with, a fourth quarter comeback to beat the Eagles.
Yeah, Daniel Jones, has to take an emergency shit, right? Like
concussion. No, he gets a concussion in the third quarter.
Why's it got to be a concussion? I'm talking about... Oh, man. And Eli just leads him.
Instead of getting the shits?
Better than a concussion, man.
What if I told you Eli came back against the Eagles because Daniel Jones ate something bad at halftime?
That's some bad fish tacos.
Who's your third?
I'm gonna go with my Jets, man. I got a little faith in them. I really do think they're gonna try to win this game. I think they got some stuff to prove. I honestly believe that. I don't know if I'm not saying they would have been a playoff team, but I do think they would have been a much better, more competitive team than they looked all season. They've been riddled with injuries. Losing Darnold for 4 weeks, that was pretty rough. I mean, you literally were playing, and Simeon didn't even last the game, didn't even last a quarter. They were playing with third, fourth practice squad quarterbacks for a few weeks there against good teams. So I think they come out here just to show that they believe they are a pretty good team and a competitive team. And I think the Bills. Honestly, I think the Bills may be a little deflated losing to New England. This game doesn't mean a ton, right? They're pretty much where they are.
No, they're locked in.
They're locked in. They're not.
They're one of the few teams where it doesn't matter.
Right.
Like, it really doesn't matter. They're not going to play anybody.
I don't think there's high motivation here. I think they're excited they got in the playoffs. They escaped that game without injuries. They can't afford to take a risk against a team like the Jets, who have some hard hitters like Jamal Adams and these guys, and don't give a fuck about if your guys are available in the playoffs. So I think I'll take the Jets plus 1.5 on the road on that one. And that is going to do it for the WiseTake DFS podcast. Joey, anything in closing before we get up out of here, bro?
No, man, it's been fun bringing everything to you guys. We probably won't be on before New Year's, so everybody have a wonderful, safe New Year's Eve. Don't do anything Audie wouldn't do. That's all I have to say.
There you go.
So that gives you guys a lot of rope to swing from. That's all.
It's really not saying much at all. Do whatever the hell you want. It's anarchy is basically what Joey just said. So.
just don't die.
So, there you go. There you go. That's a good one. For Patio Joe, for myself, the entire WiseTake Nation, as always, good luck.
Yeah.